Before this message begins, take a deep breath and listen carefully, because this message is not random and it did not appear in your life by accident. If you are hearing these words right now, it means heaven has allowed this moment for a reason, and the message you are about to hear carries a warning, a revelation, and a powerful promise that what has been secretly working against your family is about to lose its power tonight. Because God sees what humans hide and God knows what people try to do in darkness when no one else is watching, and for a long time you have been feeling that something around your family has not been normal, something that cannot easily be explained by logic or ordinary problems, because there have been strange moments when peace suddenly disappeared from your home, when small misunderstandings turned into big conflicts without reason, when sudden obstacles appeared right when things were about to improve, when health problems came out of nowhere, when finances became unstable even when you were doing everything right, and deep inside your spirit you started feeling that something unseen was trying to disturb the harmony of your household, something that was not just coincidence. And while many people dismissed your feelings or told you that you were imagining things, God says today that your spiritual sensitivity was not wrong, because there truly has been a hidden influence directed toward your family, a dark intention from someone whose heart was filled with jealousy, bitterness, and resentment, someone who could not stand seeing your family grow, smile, or move forward, someone who quietly watched your progress while secretly wishing for your downfall, and instead of healing their heart or praying for their own blessings they chose a darker path. They chose to send negative intentions, negative energy, and harmful thoughts toward your home, hoping it would weaken your unity, hoping it would create confusion, hoping it would break your peace little by little, because people who operate in darkness believe that if they cannot defeat you openly then they will try to attack you silently. But what they never understood is that when a family is covered by God's protection, no darkness can permanently succeed against them, because the light of God always reveals what evil tries to hide. And tonight God is declaring that the season of hidden attacks against your household is ending. The influence that tried to drain your peace is being cut off, the spiritual weight that has been hanging over your home is being lifted, and the same power that once tried to disturb your family is now being forced to retreat, because the authority of God is greater than every negative intention sent against you. And the truth is that your family has been under divine observation this entire time. Even during the nights when you felt confused, even during the mornings when you wondered why things kept going wrong, even during the quiet moments when you prayed asking God to reveal the truth behind the strange challenges you were facing, and heaven heard every prayer even when the answers seemed delayed, because sometimes God allows a season of testing so that hidden enemies can reveal themselves through their actions and intentions. And now that the time of exposure has arrived, the power that was quietly working against your household is losing its grip. Because darkness cannot survive in a place where God's light begins to shine openly. And tonight God is moving through your home in ways you cannot physically see, but your spirit will begin to feel the change, because heaviness will turn into calmness, confusion will turn into clarity, fear will turn into confidence, and the tension that once surrounded your family will slowly dissolve as peace begins to return to every room, every conversation, and every relationship inside your household. And God wants you to understand something important right now: the attack that came against your family was never truly about material things or temporary problems. It was about trying to break your unity, because unity is the greatest strength of any family, and darkness always tries to divide what God has joined together, but your family endured the pressure, and even when misunderstandings happened, the love between you never completely disappeared, and that is exactly why the attack could not fully succeed. Because the foundation of your family is stronger than the intentions of your enemies, and tonight that foundation is being reinforced by divine protection that no human plan can overcome, and the person who attempted to harm your household thought their actions would remain hidden forever, but God sees every intention and every secret act, and now the spiritual consequences of their actions are beginning to return to them. Not because you asked for revenge, but because God's justice restores balance where people tried to create harm, and you do not need to chase answers or confront anyone, because heaven itself is handling the situation in ways far beyond human understanding, and while your enemies believed they were weakening your family, they were unknowingly pushing you closer to divine protection, closer to spiritual awareness, and closer to the moment when God would step in and completely shut down the influence they tried to send your way. And from this night forward you will begin to notice subtle but powerful changes happening around your household. Problems that once seemed impossible will suddenly start resolving, tensions that lasted for months will quietly disappear, and opportunities that were blocked will begin opening again, as if invisible doors are being unlocked one after another, because the spiritual barrier that was interfering with your progress is being removed. And God is restoring the natural flow of blessings that always belonged to your family, and this restoration will not only affect finances or external situations but also the emotional and spiritual atmosphere inside your home, because laughter will return, conversations will feel lighter, and the sense of unity will become stronger than before, and what once felt like a fragile environment will transform into a protected space where negativity struggles to survive. And this is not coincidence but the direct result of divine intervention happening behind the scenes tonight, because when God decides to defend a family, no force of darkness can stand against that authority, and even the person who attempted to harm you will begin realizing that their efforts have completely failed, because the energy they sent out is now powerless against the shield that God has placed around your household. And as the days move forward, you will feel a growing sense of peace replacing the anxiety you once carried. And you will start recognizing that the season of spiritual attack has finally ended, not because the enemy became stronger, but because God stepped in at the exact moment when the situation needed to change, and from tonight forward your family enters a new season where protection becomes stronger, blessings begin flowing again, and the influence of hidden enemies loses its power completely, because the light of God has already entered the situation, and once divine light appears, darkness has no place left to remain. And as this message continues, God wants you to understand something even deeper about what your family has been going through, because what you experienced was not simply a random series of problems but a spiritual battle that was quietly unfolding behind the scenes, a battle that most people around you could not see or understand, yet you could feel its pressure in ways that were difficult to explain. Because there were moments when everything in your life seemed normal on the outside, but inside your home something felt heavy, something felt disturbed, something felt like an invisible resistance trying to stop the peace and happiness that once existed naturally in your family. And there were nights when you wondered why arguments appeared out of nowhere, why misunderstandings grew bigger than they should have, why small issues suddenly created tension that lasted longer than expected, and sometimes you even questioned whether the problem was within your own household. But God is revealing now that much of that confusion was not truly coming from within your family but from an external negative intention that tried to influence your environment, because when someone carries jealousy or hatred in their heart long enough they begin to project that darkness outward, hoping it will attach itself to the lives of others, and the truth is that your family became the target of someone who secretly watched your blessings and could not accept them, someone who felt threatened by your unity, your faith, and the progress that your household was beginning to make. And instead of celebrating your growth they allowed bitterness to grow inside them until it became an obsession to see your family struggle, and that negative obsession turned into actions that were meant to disturb the energy around your home, hoping that if enough confusion was created your family would slowly break apart from the inside, because the enemy always knows that if unity is destroyed then everything else becomes easier to weaken. But what that person never understood is that God had already placed a spiritual covering over your household long before those negative intentions were sent toward you, and even though the attack created temporary discomfort it was never allowed to fully destroy the foundation that holds your family together, because divine protection has been standing quietly around your home this entire time, like an unseen wall that refused to let the darkness completely enter. And that is why no matter how strange the situations became your family never truly collapsed under the pressure, because God was silently limiting the damage that could be done, and tonight that silent protection is becoming active intervention, because heaven has decided that the season of hidden attacks against your household has lasted long enough and now the influence that was once allowed to test your strength is being permanently removed from your environment. And the energy that was sent toward your family is losing its power because God has spoken a command that darkness cannot disobey, and when God speaks even the unseen world must respond. And this is the moment when the spiritual atmosphere around your household begins to shift in a way that will gradually become noticeable in your daily life, because the heaviness that once filled certain rooms in your home will begin to fade, the tension that once appeared without explanation will stop returning, and the peace that felt distant will start coming back in quiet but powerful waves. And you may not fully understand why things suddenly feel lighter but deep. Inside your spirit you will know that something has changed, because the invisible pressure that once surrounded your family will no longer be able to remain in the same place where God's authority has now taken control, and the person who tried to harm your household will soon realize that their efforts have completely failed because the same darkness they attempted to send outward is now dissolving before it can touch your family again. And what is even more powerful is that this situation has awakened a deeper spiritual awareness inside you and inside the members of your household, because challenges like this often reveal how strong a family truly is when they refuse to give up on each other, and despite the confusion and unexpected struggles your family remained connected in ways that the enemy could not break, and that connection has now become your greatest shield moving forward. Because unity attracts divine protection in ways that many people do not understand, and from this night forward the atmosphere inside your home will begin transforming into a place where negativity struggles to survive, because God is reinforcing the spiritual boundaries around your household so that similar attacks will not be able to enter again so easily, and you may soon notice that the same people who once tried to interfere in your life will slowly distance themselves or lose the influence they once had. Because when God removes darkness He also removes the pathways through which it once operated, and the plans that were secretly designed to harm your family are now collapsing before they can continue any further, and while you may never fully know every detail about who was responsible or how the negative intentions were sent, you do not need to carry that burden because God has already taken control of the situation and the truth will reveal itself in the right time and in the right way. And until that moment, your only responsibility is to protect the peace that is. Returning to your home and to allow the restoration process to continue without reopening the doors that darkness once tried to use, because the end of this attack is not only about stopping harm but also about beginning a new chapter where your family becomes stronger, wiser, and more spiritually protected than before, and the same household that once felt surrounded by unexplained struggles will soon become a place where peace, clarity, and progress grow again without interference, because tonight truly marks the moment when what was secretly working against your family loses its power completely and the protection of God rises stronger than ever around every member of your home. As this message continues, God wants you to realize that the ending of this dark season is not just about removing what was harming your family but also about restoring everything that was delayed, weakened, or disrupted during the time when those hidden attacks were trying to interfere with your household, because whenever darkness attempts to disturb a family, it always hopes to create long-term damage. It hopes to break trust between loved ones. It hopes to slow down progress. It hopes to drain hope little by little until people begin to doubt themselves and even doubt the future that once felt certain, and for a period of time you may have felt exactly that pressure in your life, because there were moments when plans did not move forward the way they should have, moments when opportunities suddenly disappeared without explanation. Moments when the peace inside your home felt fragile as if something invisible was trying to keep your family in a constant state of tension, and during those moments you may have wondered why things that should have been simple suddenly became complicated, but God says now that those delays and disturbances were never meant to be permanent because the protection placed over your household always had an expiration date for the attacks that were allowed to test you. And that expiration has now arrived, which means that the same areas of life that once felt blocked will begin to move again. The same doors that once felt closed will slowly begin to open again, and the same blessings that seemed delayed will start returning to your family one step at a time, because when God ends a season of spiritual interference, He does not simply remove the problem and walk away. He also begins restoring the balance that was disturbed so that the people who endured the challenge can move forward stronger than before. And this restoration will happen in ways that may at first appear small but will gradually become undeniable, because conversations inside your household will begin feeling calmer and more understanding, decisions that once created confusion will suddenly become clear, and the atmosphere around your family will start feeling lighter as if a weight that nobody could explain has finally been lifted from the environment of your home, and that change is not imaginary but the result of the spiritual shift that is happening tonight. Because the influence that once tried to remain hidden around your family is being forced away from your life completely, and once that influence loses its place, the natural peace that God intended for your household begins to return without resistance, and the person who attempted to harm your family will also begin to experience the consequences of the darkness they tried to spread, not because you wished harm upon them but because every action eventually returns to the person who created it. And when someone sends negativity into the lives of others, they often forget that they cannot escape the spiritual balance that governs the world, and the same energy they believed would destroy your family will now lose its direction and fade away without completing the harm they intended, while your household continues moving toward a future that is brighter than the season you just survived. And this moment is important because it marks the beginning of a new chapter where your family becomes spiritually stronger, emotionally closer, and more aware of the unseen protection that has always been guiding your lives even when you could not see it clearly, and from this point forward you will begin to recognize the signs that peace has returned because your home will start feeling safe again in ways that cannot be explained by logic alone. The nights will feel calmer, the conversations will feel more genuine, and the sense of unity between the members of your household will become deeper than it was before the attacks ever started. And that unity will become the shield that keeps future darkness from easily approaching your family again, because when a family learns how to stand together through unseen challenges, they create a spiritual strength that many enemies cannot overcome, and God wants you to remember this lesson moving forward, that no matter how quietly someone tries to harm your life, the protection placed over those who walk in faith will always be stronger than the plans created in secrecy. And even when the battle feels confusing and invisible, heaven is still watching every detail and preparing the moment when justice and restoration will appear together. And tonight is that moment for your household, because the darkness that once tried to disturb your family has reached its final limit and the power behind those hidden attacks has been broken. Which means that what comes next for your family will not be defined by the struggles you just endured, but by the peace and progress that are now returning to your lives as God closes the door on the past season and opens a new path of protection, unity, and restoration for every member of your home. As this message moves forward, God wants you to understand that the end of this dark influence over your family is not only a moment of protection but also a moment of awakening, because sometimes when people face unseen spiritual pressure, it opens their eyes to truths they never noticed before. And during the past season, your family may have started realizing things that once went unnoticed. You may have started seeing certain behaviors more clearly, certain relationships more honestly, and certain patterns that once seemed normal suddenly began to feel strange or uncomfortable, and that awareness was not accidental, because when darkness tries to move around a family, God often increases the spiritual awareness of the people inside that home so they can recognize when something is not right. And many times you may have felt an inner warning about someone, a quiet feeling that told you not. Everyone around you truly wanted the best for your family, yet you ignored those feelings because you wanted to believe the good in people. But God says today that your intuition was never wrong, because sometimes the heart can sense intentions long before the mind can explain them, and the past season has taught you that not every smile carries loyalty, and not every person who stands close to your family truly celebrates your growth. Because jealousy often hides itself behind friendly words and familiar faces, and the person who tried to send negativity toward your household never expected that their actions would eventually be exposed by the light of truth. But nothing done in darkness can remain hidden forever, because God sees every intention, every secret thought, and every plan that people try to hide behind silence. And the reason this message is reaching you now is because the time has come for that darkness to lose its influence completely, not only spiritually but also emotionally and mentally, because the biggest victory for your family will not simply be the removal of the negative energy, but the new strength and wisdom that your household has gained from surviving this experience together. And the challenges you faced have quietly built resilience inside your family that will protect you in the future. Because when people go through a storm together and refuse to abandon each other, they create a bond that becomes extremely difficult for outsiders to break, and this is exactly what has happened inside your home. Because even when confusion appeared and tensions rose, your family never truly lost the connection that held you together, and that connection has now become stronger than the influence that once tried to disturb your peace. And as the spiritual atmosphere around your household continues to change, you will begin noticing that situations which once drained your energy will stop repeating themselves. The cycle of unnecessary conflict will fade away, and the environment inside your home will slowly return to the calm and stability that once defined your family life, and this transformation may not happen all at once, but it will become clearer with each passing day as the heaviness that once lingered around your household disappears and is replaced by a sense of balance that feels natural and comforting again. And God wants you to know that the protection now surrounding your family is stronger than before, because the experience you just endured has strengthened your spiritual awareness, and when people become aware of how darkness operates, they also become better prepared to protect themselves from it in the future, which means that your household will move forward with a deeper understanding of who deserves access to your peace and who does not. Because not every person who enters your life deserves to stand close to your family. And sometimes the greatest protection God gives is the wisdom to recognize the difference between genuine love and hidden jealousy, and that wisdom is now part of the strength your family carries into the future. And as this new chapter begins, you will start seeing opportunities and positive changes returning to your life that once seemed delayed or blocked, because when the spiritual interference is removed, the natural flow of progress begins again, and the things that once felt stuck will begin moving forward with unexpected ease. And the same home that once felt surrounded by strange tension will become a place where peace grows stronger every day, and laughter and genuine conversations will return to your household in ways that remind you how powerful unity truly is, and the person who once believed they could harm your family will quietly witness that their plans have completely failed, because the household they tried to weaken has only become stronger, more united, and more protected than before. And this is the final proof that when God stands with a family, no hidden enemy can permanently succeed against them, because darkness may attempt to disturb the path for a time, but it cannot defeat the protection that comes from divine authority. And tonight marks the turning point where the influence that once tried to disturb your family has officially reached its end. And from this moment forward, your household moves into a season where peace replaces confusion, where protection replaces fear, and where the unity of your family becomes the shield that keeps future darkness from ever gaining the same access again, because God has already closed the door on the attack that once tried to enter your life and has opened a new chapter of restoration, protection, and quiet strength for everyone who calls your house their home.